In this video, I want to show you how to take all of our individual wheel project parts and assemble them into an assembly. So up here under Window, notice that I have all of my parts open already in SOLIDWORKS and they are ready to be assembled. So the first thing I need to do is start a new document. So I'm going to go up to File and New, and we want to use an assembly this time instead of using a part. So I'm going to click on Assembly, click OK, and the first thing it asks is to bring in a part. And the first part that we bring in, and this is critical to remember, the first part we bring in is going to be fixed in place. So we want to attach everything to the top plate. So that's the first piece I'm going to bring in, and I'm just going to set it in place. I'm going to go ahead and set my background to white, so I think that's a little easier to see. Now I have one piece in, and now I need to bring in the rest of them. So I'm going to come up to Insert Components, and if you see the little push pin right here, I'm going to click that on so that I can just drag these in. So I'm going to drag an axle in. I'm going to click on Axle Support, and I'm going to drag 2 of those in. I'm going to click on Bushing. I'm going to drag 2 of those in, and I'm going to click on the wheel and bring the wheel in. So there are all of my parts, and now I can hit the X up here to cancel. Now if my parts were not already open, I could come down here and hit the Browse button and actually browse out and find where they're saved on my drives, wherever they might be. So I can cancel this now, and there they are. As I come up, and if you just click on one and hold your mouse button down, they should move around. So everything will move except the top plate, because we have fixed it in place because that was the first one we brought in. I could also just click on Move Component and click it that way. If I want to rotate a component, underneath Move is the Rotate command. So notice that I'm going to rotate this one just so it's kind of in the right spot. I'm going to rotate my bushing around so it's in the right spot. This bushing is going the correct direction. I'm going to rotate my axle support over here so that it is facing the correct way. They don't need to be perfect, they just need to kind of be lined up. Alright, so now we are ready to start assembling this. My axle support goes underneath the top plate right here. When we are assembling, we're going to use the Mate command. So I'm going to click on Mate, and now it wants me to select portions of each one. And I want to use the inside of cylinders and line those up. So I'm going to click on the inside surface, not the edge. Inside surface, and it'll come in over here under my selections. I'm going to click on the inside surface of the top plate cylinder, or the hole right here. Do not click on the edge. It does not like that as much. So I'm going to click on the cylinder, so it brings it in, and it's looking for a concentric mate. So it's already highlighted. I'm going to click the check mark. So now as I move this up and down, you will notice that that hole is aligned, but this other side over here is not aligned. So that is going to be our next mate to put in. So inside cylinder and inside cylinder, that lines them up concentric, check mark. Now if we made a mistake and didn't get these holes perfect, it would give us an error message here, and we would need to go either fix the holes in the top plate or the holes in the axle support to make sure they're lined up. Now what we want to do is we want to smash these two things together right here, these two parts. So the way I do that, I'm going to click on the surface, and I'm going to click on the surface, and that will press those two parts together, and our mate over here is called coincident. And that just means that they fit together tight. So I'm going to hit the check mark. While we have this here, let's go ahead and put this other axle support mate in. So I'm going to click on the Mate command, make sure that's active. Cylinder to cylinder, puts it in concentric, and cylinder to cylinder, again concentric. I can't really see in there, so I'm just going to separate those. Surface to surface, coincident, check mark. The next thing I'm going to do is put in the bushings, and they go in very similar to how the axle support went to the top plate. So the first thing I'm going to do is line up cylinders, check mark, and then I'm going to put those together with a coincident mate. Check mark again. Again, line up the cylinders, outside cylinder to inside cylinder, check mark, and then it's surface to surface. Click that. Make sure you hit the check mark after each one. Let's put the axle in the same way. I'm going to go cylinder, and it doesn't matter which cylinder I pick. And I'm going to click on the inside cylinder here. Check mark. Now we want the axle to be coincident with the outside of the axle support. So I'm going to take this surface, and they'll line themselves up and check mark. And we have one more piece to put in. It's the wheel. I'm going to click on the inside of the cylinder and the outside of the axle. That will line them up concentric, check mark. We've got a little different one here, and let me show you what that is. I'm going to click on the surface of the wheel here, and as I click on the surface of the bushing over here, it's going to put those in coincident. Well, we don't want those coincident. We want to center that wheel in our assembly. So as I come down over here, I find the distance command. So I'm going to put a distance in there, and I'm going to put a distance of 1/16 of an inch, 0.0625, check mark. Notice that it went the wrong direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the dimension on that, and now it puts the correct 1/16 of an inch, and notice that that is centered on both sides. Now I can hit the check mark. As I exit out of this, my mates are all right here. So notice I have two concentric mates for the top plate and the axle support, and then it's tied together with the coincident. Again, there's my concentrics, coincident. Now I can go in, if I need to, delete these out or modify them as needed. Sometimes it's easier just to delete those out and start over. So that's how you get to the different mates. If sometimes you'll get an error message here that your mates aren't working right, so just open that up, delete those out, and try again. And that is how we assemble our wheel in SOLIDWORKS.